So I figured that we have some time right now.
Yeah, you know that savings account you have for me?
Yes, I'm familiar with it.
I think it's time we use it.
Oh, really? What do you have in mind?
I think I'm ready to buy my first car. Mom keeps saying that she's really looking forward to me driving so that I can help with chores, like getting the groceries and picking up the dry cleaning.
I have heard her say things like that, and to be honest, I'm not surprised that you're thinking about buying your first car. I got mine when I was 16 as well, and you're about to turn 16 here soon, and you can have your driver's license before the end of this year. So it's natural to be thinking about getting a car. But before we hop into my car and drive to the lot and start looking at cars, there are certain things that we need to discuss and think about. You know that this is going to be a big decision, and anytime we're faced with important decisions, we need to ask, what does Jehovah have to say about the matter? We need to look at the spiritual aspect of our decision making, right?
Well, yeah, it's got to be a service vehicle, of course.
Okay,
But
well,
what else is there to consider?
part of it is, yeah, it has to be a car that is going to be good for service, but there's a couple of other things that we need to consider. So let's look at two Bible principles today, and I'll kind of help you how to look at those principles and how do they apply to you wanting to buy your first car. Okay? The Bible does talk about several principles. So first, since we have our Bibles here on the table, turn to the book of Luke, and let's go to chapter 14. And when you get there, why don't you read verses 28 through 30. That's Luke 14, 28 through 30.
Okay. For example, who of you wanting to build a tower does not first sit down and calculate the expense to see if he has enough to complete it? Otherwise he might lay its foundation but not be able to finish it, and all the onlookers would start to ridicule him, saying, "This man started to build, but he was not able to finish."
That's right. So when you look at those scriptures, what jumps out at you as pertinent to what we're talking about, buying a car?
Well, the sentence that jumped out at me was, calculate the expense to see if he has enough to complete it.
That's right. That's really the principle here in this scripture. And, can you imagine if you don't calculate the expense properly, like the scripture says, and then you end up getting a car, but then you don't have enough for it? It says here, you may not be able to finish. Well, how would that apply to you? You know that people lose their cars because they can't pay for them after they get them? So that's how this might apply in our situation. But there's other things I want you to think about when this principle is in play, calculating the expense. How much should you pay for a car? How much money do you have? How much money are your parents willing to help you with? And even after the car is purchased, did you know that there is numerous expenses involved with owning and operating a car, like fuel, maintenance, insurance? So there's a lot of things to consider, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about those?
I haven't really thought about this.
Okay. Well, I want you to start thinking about that as we begin the process of discussing and helping you buy your first car. So calculating the cost, that's the first principle. The second one is found in Proverbs 22. So let's go ahead and turn the Bibles there. Proverbs 22, and let's read, I'll read this time, verse 7. The rich one rules the poor, but here's the point. And the borrower is a slave to the lender. You know that more and more people today go and get a loan from the bank, a car loan, when they buy their cars. Okay? So getting into debt is very normal in the society that we live in. But when you look at what the faithful and discreet slave, our brothers, have written about debt, going into debt in the Watchtower, when you read that, here's a couple of things that I saw the other day that really caught my attention. They said that sometimes circumstances make it seem unavoidable to go into debt. But those who take unnecessary debt just to buy what they want, when they want it, can end up being shackled or handcuffed by